Welcome to the Propreneur Podcast, where we help practice owners become better entrepreneurs. I'm your host, Dino Watt. Welcome once again, everybody, to the Propreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Dino Watt, and excited today because one of the things that I talk about often when it comes to increasing your business, it seems like it should be a no-brainer, but not a lot of people get this, is the marketing aspect of your business. How do you market correctly? How do you not get kind of ripped off by all the marketing things that are out there? How not to spend hundreds of thousands of dollars, and I don't say that lightly, in Facebook ads with zero return. Today, our guest is going to teach us a little bit about that, but also just tell us about his experience as being an owner, an operator, as well as having other businesses. Our guest today is Dr. Ty Coles. Ty, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
I'm excited for you as well. So tell us, Ty, a little bit about yourself, your background, how you got into it. What's your doctor story? Why'd you decide to go into this world?
Yeah, so my family, I have a lot of dentists in the family. My brother in particular is an orthodontist, so he asked me to come join him. His practice was growing out here in Arizona. And so I graduated in 2012 from ortho residency and joined him. And so at the time, that was right after the recession, and that was when things had slowed down. So he told me to come join him when things were good. Things kind of slowed down. And so at that point, I came out. He only had a couple days of work for me. So I was working in my brother's practice, but kind of bouncing around different corporate outfits inside of Phoenix. So at that point, I didn't really want to stay in the corporate world. So I started looking at how to grow our practice so I could eventually transition out of working for corporate offices and work just for our practice. So I really started, investigating marketing of all facets like Google, Facebook, online stuff, offline, postcards, direct mail, referral, patient and doctor referral marketing. So over the course of a couple of years, we grew our practice from 2 to 7 locations. We hired on 3 additional doctors. About that time, we were in different consulting groups, different kind of coaching groups. And other people saw what we were doing and said, who's doing your marketing for you? And at the time, I said, I am. So we had a lot of people wanting basically to do the same thing we were doing. So at that point, I actually started a marketing agency where we were trying to do the same marketing campaigns that worked for our practice for other doctors. And over 2 years, it went from 0 to 85 clients and 0 to about 30 employees. So it was about at that time I kind of decided my life wasn't going in the direction I wanted to. I was working more than I was sleeping, wasn't really spending any time with our family. So we actually sold our marketing agency. I retained some of our employees that were kind of my best employees. We have our own in-house marketing team, and I've kind of returned to working in the clinic, working with patients, but also marketing our own practice versus trying to market for 85 orthodontists across the country. So kind of circle from doing it ourselves to everyone else, and now just back to doing it ourselves.
Okay, there's a lot to unpack in that. That's awesome. That's awesome. First of all, I want to go all the way back to the family where, you said you had a lot of dentists in your family.
Yep. My dad's a dentist. My sister's a dentist. I have a brother that's an oral surgeon. And then my older brother is my partner who's an orthodontist.
Well, then you got to see growing up some of the good, the bad, and the ugly of owning a practice, being a doctor and going through all of that yourself. How did that affect your decision to actually get into it?
So it was kind of the family business during the summers. During high school, we would all work in my dad's office. So that was what first got us introduced to it. So he loved his job. He still actually practices now. He's almost 70. And
nice.
So yeah, we got introduced to the dental side, and he liked it enough that my sister started it. I'm the youngest in the family, so I kind of fell into it. It was kind of an easy path, and I like it, but I've also had lots of other interests. So that's kind of where the marketing thing, and I kind of took to that. In addition to liking teeth and working in the dental field.
So when you got into the marketing thing, what were some of the biggest helps for you to learn about this crazy world of marketing? Because it's obviously shifted. You've seen over since 2012, you said when you got out of school, right?
Yep.
So the last couple of years, what I call the evolution of the practice has happened pretty quickly in the last 10 years for sure. What were some of the biggest kind of challenges, number one, that you saw, but number two, how did you overcome those in the marketing world?
So me personally, I love online courses. I have kind of an online course addiction.
Oh,
And so
nice.
once
Me
I
too.
found
I'm there with you,
some,
buddy.
yeah, so I found some resources on like Digital Marketer. I'm sure
Uh-huh.
anyone who's been around those. So that basically was almost all the marketing knowledge you need. Obviously, there's lots of other places you can find it, but surprisingly, it's not that expensive. It just
Right.
takes time and energy to
Yes.
get a really good background education on marketing. So, and I can say for a fact, having run a marketing agency, we hired people with bachelor's degrees in marketing to come work for us, and then we still had to teach them everything. So, as far as
Love that.
yeah, as far as learning how to do it, there's more resources out there and ways to learn it. It's just knowing where to start, and then that's obviously my kind of go-to source of keeping up with the changes that are happening and making sure that we're on top of it. So,
I love that you said that because so often I get doctors who are like, well, I'm hiring a new marketing person. They just graduated from whatever with their marketing degree. And I'm like, so what? Like, but it's all obsolete by this point, right? And Digital Marketer is a resource. I mean, I have no affiliation with them other than I'm in a mastermind with Ryan. But other than that, I recommend him all the time because it is one of the most inexpensive and what I love is continually updated resources for an online course that, man, if I was a doctor practicing today and I needed that in my office, which I think everybody does, I would hire someone specifically to sit and watch those courses so they can learn how to market my business. It's right there on the internet for you.
yeah, even if you don't do it yourself, I think you need someone in your office with that type of mindset or that kind of background, because anytime you outsource everything and don't know
Yep.
what you're outsourcing, then you're never going to get good results. So
100%. 100%. That's crazy. So, okay. So then you went from diving deep into this to what became your own agency, if you will, to helping all these other doctors. When you would have a client come to you, what would you say would be their biggest frustration about marketing that you knew you could solve for them?
So most of them didn't even know where to start. They had always done the traditional, we worked exclusively with orthodontists, so they would do the traditional get referrals from dentists. A lot of these guys were, getting older. A lot of their referral sources were starting to retire and sell their practices. The different things that are happening with, more dentists doing Invisalign, referring less, more corporate
Yep.
offices coming in. So all of them just saw their practices slowly dying, and they had no way of like increasing the number of new patients other than trying to go and have lunch more with the dentist.
Yes.
And so there was no direct to consumer channels. There was really no patient referral programs. And so that's the things that we try to do is, there's a lot of teeth in the world. There's a lot of people in your neighborhood that you can treat. But if you're only going after the small percentage of people that are in the dental offices of the guys around you, you're really limiting yourself. So that was always the thing, was trying to figure out where was the biggest, impact, where could we have the biggest ROI out of all the places you can look. So, online, there's a huge, obviously, opportunity there. It's different than referral marketing. They have to understand that, a lead from Facebook is going to be much different than a lead from a dentist referral.
Sure. Right.
And be comfortable spending a lot more money to acquire that lead, even though it's going to, convert less potentially.
Well, and would you also say that it might convert less, but you will get more of the leads because there's just more of a pool to choose from. Even though you're spending money on it, it's a good ROI versus
Yeah, I
the
mean,
bribery.
if you need more new patients, you got to get them from somewhere. If you've already maxed out the dentists, then you can't spend any more money or do anything else to get referrals from there. You got to go somewhere else and know that every layer you go down, you're going to spend a little bit more money to get less results. But if you want more patients, then that's kind of what you got to do. And understand, the ROI, where if I spend $100 to acquire a lead, that turns into a $5,000 patient.
Yep.
That's easy money, easy math to do. But most guys have never done that before. Their experience has been exclusively with dentists. So asking them to suddenly start spending $2,000 to $3,000 on Facebook per month, for us doesn't sound like a big deal, but for them who's never done it, that's always a big hurdle. And understanding that might get you 10 patients, and that's a great ROI, and that's
exactly.
So.
Well, so what's interesting about that is maybe not so much and again on this podcast we have chiro, dental, ortho, anybody who owns a private practice, right? That's our focus. And I know that I had dentists that I had talked to this is probably about 5 years ago, that were spending $2,000 a month on like yellow page ads because that was just what you did, right? That was just like,
Right.
oh, that's how this is before you had the opportunity for Facebook and stuff like that. So it's interesting, the shift. And also in the ortho, we want to be more direct. I don't know, maybe tell me if I'm totally off on this or not. I have a theory. I personally, when I first got into this industry and I found out what I call the bribing that happens, like, hey, if you send me, I'll send you cookies if you send me more, clients from the dentist, like orthodontists going to dentists. And I thought that was pretty interesting. But I also looked at the future and I said, well, I don't see this as being a resource in the next 5 to 10 years at all. Because if I was a dentist, and I was opening a practice, I would go, oh, wait, so I can keep that $5,000 Invisalign case in-house. Oh, okay, I'll learn Invisalign. Or I could go, and I'm not advocating this, but I just see the mentality of what they're doing is going and learning how to do braces, or even bringing a orthodontist into my office so that I can keep that in-house. Do you see, it sounds like what you were saying earlier, that slow dwindling of those referrals happening because of the competition factor?
Yeah. So a lot of it is, there's so many more dentists, especially in like an area like Phoenix, where it's a
Yeah.
high metropolitan area. As the competition increases of number of dentists, they have to look for ways to increase their revenue. It's going to happen. And so Invisalign's an easy way to go. Learning some limited braces or full braces is an easy way to go. So ultimately their loyalty is to their own practice and their own bottom line.
Sure.
So honestly, I don't have any problem with them doing it. It's going to happen, and understand that, our marketing message is going to be that we're the specialists, we're different. Here's how we are different. And if they're better at marketing than me, then I guess they can just have the patient and they deserve it. So that's kind of how I always looked at it, and at the same time, there's a lot of teeth in the world. There's a lot of people that, just aren't getting braces anywhere. So, there's the patients in a dental office, but I'd say 50% of our patients come in without a dentist referral or without a dentist period. They're people that haven't been to the dentist in years. And we've now created the message in their mind that I need to get straight teeth. So we usually end up referring more to dentists than we get referrals because we're so good at direct marketing.
Yes.
So a lot of our patients come in with really no dental background, having not seen the dentist for years. But we were the first stop because we were able to attract that patient. So there's more of those people out there than you realize.
Yeah, I love it. I mean, I often say when people come to me and ask about competition, I got competition, I'm like, well, then you don't know who your ideal client is, and you're worried about the wrong thing because, like you said, there's plenty of teeth in the world, and even in your own town. And in most towns, I'm going to say not all, but in most towns, you could line up all the teenagers, if you will, the 7 to 18-year-olds, and all the orthodontists, and compare the two, and you don't have enough chairs to fill them 24/7, 7 days a week. It's just about the marketing message. But it made me think of something that you just said. You're right. Most people don't understand about direct marketing. So you got to be asked to speak about this, right? Like, you go around speaking about this at all?
Yeah, I've spoken at several conferences before. I've kind of took a little break this last year as we kind of regrouped and reorganized our own practice. But yeah, I speak a lot on Facebook marketing. That's always kind of the hot buzz topic, and most orthodontists don't do it very well at all, especially the paid advertising on Facebook.
Yeah.
And then website SEO and all that stuff is kind of where we have really set ourselves apart and do really well with that stuff.
I could see where I just like doing this, but I could see where you speaking even on the what to be aware of when someone comes and saying, hey, I can do Facebook marketing for you, or I can do SEO for you on your product. As I'm sure you've seen this too. One of the things that I've recognized in this industry is there's a lot of predatory companies out there. It's like, oh, you don't know what you're doing, so here, let me build you a website for $30,000. But you look at the website and it's like, well, that's really a $5,000 website. Like, that's a templated, you could have had that. Or they don't know what they're doing marketing wise. They're charging all this money marketing wise because you don't know what to look for that is positive. You just hope that it works. I think you on that topic would be brilliant because you could talk to it easily.
Yeah. So, I've a lot of the referring dentists, we've kind of consulted with them in the area, and they asked me to review their websites, and usually within like 5 minutes, I can find 5 glaring things that we could fix today to probably double their conversion rate on their website. So, a lot of websites are beautiful looking. They're made by graphic designers. They're not made by marketers.
Right.
So even if it looks pretty, doesn't mean it converts well. And
Love it.
most people don't know if it's converting. So, there's pixels you can put on your website like Google Analytics, where you can know what percentage of people that come to your website turn into a new patient. So we know at our website, 8% of visitors schedule a consultation with us.
Wow.
And so having that number, I know that, every time someone schedules an appointment with us, it's $1,000 of profit. So I know if I can get someone from Google to my website, I know with a high degree of certainty what that's worth. So I know that every time someone clicks on a Google ad, I made $60. So I can spend up to $60 to get a click. So if my cost per click is $15, I just made $45 profit. And so those, tracking is pretty straightforward, but most people don't do it.
Yep.
Without that knowledge of this click is worth this much money, everyone gets really hesitant and nervous. And like I said, they don't know if their website's good or bad or indifferent. They don't know where their patients came from. They just know they have a website, and then someone says, hey, I can make a better one. And they, throw money at it without knowing whether it was better, worse, or basically stayed the same. So,
man, Ty, if I can't talk you into speaking to that, I'm going to talk you into writing a book about that, because how many guys need that information, right? It's so crucial, and it's just not in their wheelhouse. And I know it, I get it. They got a whole bunch of stuff they're trying to worry about and growing their practice, and everybody's telling them this and that and the other, but that's so valuable to understand. I love it. I love it. What do you see is that doctor referral versus the online referral or the other type of marketing? Like, what do you like the best? You said Facebook is something you like. What's an area that you like to?
Yeah. The area that I'm best at is like paid advertising. So Google ads, Facebook ads, we do radio ads, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
That's really my wheelhouse, where I can, write a message, write a paid ad, put it in front of the right people, retarget them. And then with all the tracking and metrics and analytics we do, we know how much we can spend to acquire a patient. And once you've done that math, then, you can just keep increasing that number on the paid side. As long as everything else stays the same, you kind of have an unlimited runway.
Love it.
So that's things awesome. Like organic, Facebook and, having cute videos and things that go viral, like that's great if you can do it. That's not really my personality, and it's not what we're good at. So,
yep.
Everyone who can do that, more power to you. But for me, like, I like having something consistent and reliable. And that's really where the paid advertising works for us, is because, we have a year's worth of data. We know how things went over the last year, and with a reasonable degree of certainty, we know we can repeat that versus, a doctor referral or a patient referral. It's great when you have those, but it's hard to know how to increase that number with a high degree of certainty. It's so sporadic that, you do what you can, but it's hard to predict if I put more money here, is it going to result in more patients?
Wow. And having that knowledge is so important, because it's kind of like just rinse and repeat over and over. Like, hey, I know this is working. I can rinse and repeat that. I can spend a little bit more money on that area. So let's do this. If there was one thing that you would have a doctor who's listening to this look into their marketing right now to see if it's winning or losing, let's just make it simple, winning or losing, what would you have them look at first?
So the website's really kind of like the center of your marketing universe, I think. Mm-hmm. There are some social platforms that people can bypass the website potentially, but I think by and large, any marketing you do, everybody gets your website at least once before they pick up the phone and call you. So figuring out first how to track, website conversions. So whether it's a form on the page or getting tracking numbers on your website, so you can know how people, how many visitors do you get and how many of those people turn into patients. So even with that, those numbers on hand, then that will help you guide your decisions on, can I afford to drive people to my website? If I push people there, is it going to be profitable? And if those numbers are really bad, that's where you need to start. Is I need to redo the website and see if these numbers change. But if you're not tracking or watching them, then you don't know what to change or what to do. You're just kind of guessing and throwing darts and hoping that something happens.
Well, that's a good point too, right there, right? And make sure that if you do decide, okay, I'm going to go look at my website, it's not giving me the conversions, it's not being a marketer for me while I sleep, if you will, then I'm going to change it. But don't just go and change it, right? Like those listening, I don't want you to just go and change it. Go and find somebody who understands how to track all of that information, how to make sure that you're getting the score, if you will, about your website, as opposed to just you need a new picture or
Right.
you need a new logo or anything like that.
Yeah. So a lot of people think they just need to rebrand and change their logo and change their colors. And, you might, but if you haven't tracked before, then you don't know if that change was good, bad, or indifferent.
Absolutely. You heard it here first, everybody. First thing to do as soon as you get off this podcast is go check out your website. Ask your web person to give you those numbers, like what is trackable. So Ty, then you went from that to realize, okay, I want to get back into my practice a little bit more, get my hands a little more in people's teeth because you were so busy doing the other stuff. So you sold off that part of it, which I think makes you an even more valuable resource because it's not like you're on the podcast, and there's nothing wrong with this when people do come on the podcast for this, but you're not here hawking your wares, right? You're not here to advertise your marketing program. You're here just to give great, valuable information. But now you're back in the practice. Are you a partner with your brother in the practice?
Yep.
Okay. So, and you guys have how many offices?
We have 7 offices.
Okay. So you have a lot of moving parts and pieces there.
Yep.
With
employees. Got about 52 employees and 5 doctors. So yeah, it's a large operation.
Yeah, it definitely is. Well, let's talk about that then, because one of the points of this podcast is to talk about how it doesn't matter where your business is, how successful or striving and where you're trying to get in the sense of your goals, you are on the path. Everyone has challenges. Every business has challenges. Apple has challenges. Disney has challenges. Everyone, doesn't matter big or small. When it comes to your practice, what are you finding is the biggest challenge you have? You've obviously conquered the marketing side of things. What's now the problem?
So the biggest thing I've been struggling with recently is, I'm primarily in one location. When I find something that works or I like, trying to translate that into the other 6 and get everybody doing the same thing, moving in the same direction. And, changes are very difficult to make when, you have a big operation. When you have one office with 4 or 5 staff members, you can change things every week and everyone just rolls with it. But that's the biggest, struggle is when we decide, okay, we need to make a change. We need to implement this. How do we roll this out to all, 50 plus employees and, get people doing the same thing? And
what have you tried in the past to do?
So, I do a lot of emails, videos. I narrate videos and send it to everybody. I do like automated emails to remind people. So I use software Infusionsoft where I have all the employees in it. And then I do automated emails to remind people to send me a report on certain days. And, so that helps and that works. We try to do, monthly meetings where we have our managers that go out to the different sites and implement things. And so, we try to do quarterly meetings where we get everybody in the room at the same time. So, it's working. It's just, you have to have patience knowing that things take a while to change and, you're now swinging a big door and, it's going to take a little bit of extra effort and time to make those changes, where before it was a lot more easy to, move quick.
Well, I think that's a really good insight, right? It's, first of all, it does take a lot to turn the Titanic, right? And you got to move that ship. It's a big thing, but it sounds like you're doing a lot of the things that are right on that I think a lot of people don't even think about doing, which they probably should, even in the smaller offices, the more intimate teams, because it creates that habit of, I love that you're doing the videos. And I tell my doctors all the time, man, record, shoot a video about it, shoot them doing the thing, like recording the thing, love listening to phone calls, things like that. But you're already doing a lot of those things to implement it. It is a matter of, and what can be challenging is that patience, right? waiting for it to happen.
Yep.
It has to become instilled as part of our habits.
Yep. I like to make quick changes and turn things on a dime. And, when something's not working, I'll try to change it that minute. And I have to realize that sometimes it might take a week or two or more to, see that change happen. But
well, I often refer to the doctors as you are the conductor to the orchestra, right? And a couple of lessons in being the conductor is, number one, obviously you can't play all the instruments. You got to be there just to make it go along. But your job is to keep the rhythm and the timing so that people can follow along. And not everybody's going to catch up as quickly as you hope. Everybody's a first chair, right? But not everybody's going to be a first chair. You're going to get people who are just kind of catching on. Maybe they have a different style. But if you keep that consistency, and it sounds like you're that type of person, which is what I love, where you say, okay, well, this is what we're doing. And we're not going to bend because you don't like it or you like the way that we used to do it. This is what we're going to do. We're not going to force anything. We're just going to slowly, do that bending of the wood, if you will. When you bend a 2x4, it takes a long time to bend that around. Doing the same type of idea here of making sure you're consistent and continually asking for what you want. I think it's so important. And so good for you. That's great. What do you guys have a set of specific core values that you use that you can speak to about it?
We used to have some written down. It was something that we've been talking about changing and updating as our practice has grown. So yeah, it's kind of on the list for 2020 to revisit those and make that a priority. But
yeah, I would say that might be something to look into. I'm a big fan of having just those set core values. I don't believe in core value of like honesty or customer service, because that's what everybody does. Everybody says that, right? But if you have those core values that are very unique to you, that say, we're in a constant state of learning, right? Now you can go to somebody who might not be as malleable to your changes and go to them and say, so remember, one of our core values is this. The core values to me are your hiring and firing list, because it makes it easier to have the conversation as opposed to, hey, Sally, why aren't you getting on board to this thing? And,
right.
And now I can speak to the core values, say, hey, Sally, so this is one of our core values. So what we need you to do is this, because they've agreed to the core value, not necessarily to your constant changing of minds.
Right.
I know that doesn't happen.
Yeah, I think we definitely have the culture of what the core values are and people come to expect of it. But I think having it written down is probably definitely something we should look at and would help. So.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. I believe that your culture is a result of a vision, which you guys definitely have, right? You have the vision of where you want to go and what you want to do with this practice. And that's the destination, the core values of the roadmap. And when I can give my team members the roadmap and say, well, this is what we're doing here. It's like Zappos is a great example, right? Of a company who we hire and fire based upon this. And this is where we're going. So it's that roadmap. But that's awesome. I love what you're doing out there. So, what I'd like to know, and I know we're running short on time here, but I would just really like to know, how do you, it's you and your brother, is there other doctors too, other associates?
Yeah, we have 2 other associates.
Okay, so when you're enrolling someone into this new business and becoming part of your practice, what have you found has been the most successful thing that you've implemented, so you're all as leaders, and I think our team members look at the associates, no matter if they're a partner or not, as part of the leadership because they're the doctors. What are you doing to enroll everybody and get on the same page? And if you're not on the same page, sometimes how do you resolve that conflict?
Yeah, so we, try to do some CE courses together. We try to, do quarterly meetings with our entire group where we bring everybody together, and we have each one of the doctors speak on a selected topic that we've kind of outlined as something that we need to cover. So having, the different doctors speak in front of the whole group, I think helps add authority and, leadership to them, that we, value their input and what they have to say. So that's definitely helped. And we've tried to empower the associates and the other doctors that, where they're at, we have each doctor that are over a specific office. And so we try not to switch too much. So we've kind of empowered them to make a lot of those personnel decisions and the day-to-day decisions to how to help run it, obviously under our umbrella and kind of under our guidance. So it's something that as we've grown, we've had to learn how to do it, and we haven't always been perfect at it, but I think we're slowly getting better and improving as we've gone.
All right, let me go deeper with that then, because I can speak to you in a very unique way because you are working with your brother. So conflict happens, right? There's a disagreement on how to do something. How do you guys determine how to move forward powerfully when there is some sort of disagreement? I don't need you to pull up a specific disagreement, but it happens with everybody. But you're unique because you're brothers, you're working this together. How do you deal with that?
Yeah, so my brother and I work pretty well together. We're both of us are fairly non-confrontational, so that helps.
Mm-hmm.
And then also our skill sets kind of balance each other out. So my brother actually handles more of like the HR and the personnel decisions and the day-to-day stuff like that. I'm more of the back-end marketing and the numbers guy, the analytics, looking at those things. So that's kind of helped that we've balanced out. And then, a lot of times, where we've done something for a while, sometimes we have to look at like, why do we do it this way? Is there a reason we did it, or have we just always done it that way? And could we do it better? And then kind of being open that, we might be wrong and there might be a better way to do it, and looking for, a different perspective on that. So everything from, the way that we glue brackets on the teeth recently this last month, we've been looking at it like, why do we do it this way? Other people have said that there's a better way to do it, and, being open that we can change things as basic as, how we glue a bracket on a teeth if there's a better way to do it. So
it sounds like the two keys that you just said, it was number one, that you recognize you both have certain traits or personalities that complement one another. You're finding the complement in one another, not the disagreement, which is so important. And then number two is, I love the questioning of why. I don't think people ask that as much as they should in anything in life, right? Let alone with their families and their marriage, themselves. Why am I doing it this way? And to question that, because all it does, the only thing it can do is sharpen the saw. If it's great and it's working awesome, cool, great, we'll continue doing that. But now we know and we're gonna move forward. But if not, now we can find a better, faster, smarter way. So very, very awesome. That's very, very cool. I love everything you said so far. I think you've given us some amazing nuggets and great pieces to how people who are out there, first of all, thinking about their marketing a little differently. But number two, if you're in a partnership, those two things right there, asking yourself, why are we doing it this way? And number two, what is the skill set I have that complements someone else? Whether you're a brother or not, right?
Right.
But luckily you've grown up with him and it's not going to change.
Yep.
It's the way it is. That's awesome. What's the future for you? Tell us what the future is for your practice. And by the way, I didn't think we even said, what's your practice name?
It's Premier Orthodontics in Arizona. It's in the Phoenix area.
Awesome. We'll have, in a moment, I'm going to ask people how to reach out to you, but what's the future for you guys? Where are you going?
So for the time being, we're trying to grow and scale our current offices that we have to try to get a little bit higher in capacity, but probably in the next year or two, we'll probably add additional locations. Again, once we have kind of the marketing machine, going into a new area and turning on Google and Facebook and everything else in that area, it is a lot less challenging to open a new location. The challenge is on the operation, the system side of, managing the doctor assistants, the phone calls and all that part. And so that's what
finding the good talent and all that. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's what we're focusing on right now, is going from, running a doctor's office to running a business. Nice. And that's where we've had to scale from, a single office or a couple offices to having 7 offices with 50 employees. So eventually, once we figure that out and we feel a little more comfortable, we've made a lot of strides this last year. The next goal would be to add some additional locations and try to continue to scale and grow that way.
That's awesome. It reminds me, have you heard of the book, The Road Less Stupid?
No.
It's Keith Cunningham he's in Rich Dad Poor Dad. You've heard that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad?
Yep.
So he's the rich dad in Rich Dad Poor Dad.
Okay.
And he has a book called The Road Less Stupid. And when you're talking about scaling and really just kind of making sure that kind of everything's in place the way that it needs to be in order to do that, it's a great book. It's an easy read too, because it's not linear. You can go to any chapter and kind of read what he says about that. He's got a really funny sense of humor. He wraps up everything in bumper sticker. So if I were to say this on a bumper sticker, this is what you need to remember. But he's somebody who had $100 million business, lost it all, plus 50 million, and then gained it all back again. So kind of got some smarts, but I think from what you said, it just popped in my head, and I love books and what they can do for us. So I love the direction of what you guys are doing. I love what you guys are doing. I think that you have such a plethora of information to just share with people. And I hope that people will reach out to you. And I should ask this, you're open to people reaching out to you if they have any questions or anything like that?
Yeah, I still do some consulting. So if somebody really wants, to spend an hour on the phone with me and discuss strategy and what to do from here, I've gone from trying to do it all for you to now guiding you and telling you how to do it. And,
oh my gosh. I'm so glad I asked that then, because everybody listening to this needs to make sure that they, run, not walk. I promise you, I don't care what you're doing in your marketing right now, who you have doing it. And a lot of people are like, well, I've got a company doing it. I have clients myself who are like, well, I've got a company doing this. It's like, you need to know this. So get on a phone call, reach out to Ty, and at least have that consultation for an hour. Bet you're going to learn more in an hour than any one of your hired marketing graduates from the university are going to know. So that's awesome. I'm so glad I asked that. Well, Ty, thank you so much for spending your time here with us on the Propreneur podcast. It really has been a pleasure. I hope to do it again soon, because you just got a plethora of information. I'd love to interview your brother at some point too, because I'd love to hear his perspective of that as well. And like I said, next time, since we're kind of in the same town, I could just drive over to you.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being here. Everybody, thank you for listening to the Propreneur podcast. Reach out to Ty Coles. His information and links will be in the show notes, so make sure you look for those. And everybody have an amazing day. Thank you for listening to Propreneur podcast. We'll see you on the next episode. Thanks so much again for listening to the Propreneur podcast. We really appreciate your support. If you haven't subscribed already, please make sure you do so. Also, if you feel like you might be a good fit for our podcast as a guest, or know somebody who you think would be, go ahead and email us at dino@dinowatt.com. Again, thanks for support. We'll see you on the next episode.